The morning sun spilled across the city like liquid gold, warming the pale blue sky as the rush of commuters filled the streets. But inside a quiet cafe on Brookline Avenue, a single dad named Arven Hale sat completely still, unable to touch the coffee cooling in his hands. His world had just tilted off its axis, not because of something he had lost, but because of something he could no longer keep running from. Everything that mattered, his job, his dignity, his daughter, was slipping away faster than he could hold it together. And now, in the middle of the daylight bustle, the one woman who could change his fate had just approached him with an offer no ordinary man would ever believe. "Just act like you're mine for tonight," said CEO Marietta Vaughn, her voice calm but trembling beneath the hard shell she wore. But what stunned her wasn't the bold proposition. It was the single dad's quiet, resolute reply that followed. "Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the magic of human connection, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Spark. Your support helps us keep creating stories that touch the heart." The cafe hummed softly with the sound of espresso machines, forks tapping plates, and sunlight drifting through the large glass windows. But for Arven, all of it felt distant. His gaze kept dropping to the small photograph tucked inside his wallet, a smiling 12-year-old girl with curly auburn hair, his daughter Nelise, his whole world. She didn't know he had been laid off 2 weeks ago. She didn't know he had been working temporary jobs just to make sure her school lunches never ran short. And she absolutely didn't know the landlord had slipped a final warning under their apartment door that very morning. The fear inside him clung to his ribs like cold metal. He never expected to see Marietta here, not in a simple cafe, not dressed like this, not with her defenses lowered. She was the CEO of Vaughn Tech Industries, known across the city for her sharp intelligence, icy composure, and the kind of confidence that made boardrooms fall silent. But today, her long cream coat hung open over a sky-blue blouse, her hair tied in a loose daytime knot that softened her normally stern look. She seemed human for once, almost fragile under the daylight. Arven didn't look up when she sat down across from him. He wasn't prepared for her, not today. She started first, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her porcelain cup. She didn't usually fidget, she didn't usually come to meetings alone, and she most definitely didn't usually look as though she had spent the morning fighting a losing battle with her own thoughts. "Arven, I know things ended abruptly," she whispered, referring to the day he walked out of Vaughn Tech after a misunderstanding that cost him his contract. "But I need your help tonight, just tonight." It wasn't lost on him that she was asking for something personal, not professional, something that made her voice softer than he'd ever heard it, something that made her lower her eyes, as if ashamed of even speaking it aloud. She inhaled deeply, then said the words that would change both their lives. "My board is hosting a formal corporate reception this evening. They're trying to push through a merger I'm against. If they succeed, I'll lose all say over the company my father built. They've been waiting for an excuse to undermine me. And the rumors, the ones about me not being stable enough to lead alone, they're spreading again." Her voice cracked. "I just need someone by my side, someone who looks like he belongs there, someone I trust not to betray me, someone who can protect my position for one night just by standing with me." She swallowed hard. "So, just act like you're mine, for tonight." The words hovered in the air like breath on a cold morning. Arven finally met her gaze, his heartbeat loud in his ears. He hadn't expected this. He had once respected her, even admired her strength. But he hadn't expected her to reach out to him, of all people, to the man who was barely holding his own life together. He understood what she was asking. It wasn't romance, it wasn't a lie she planned to continue. It was a strategic lifeline, a shield against the men waiting to tear her down. He could have said yes instantly, but instead he leaned back, the sunlight cutting across half his face, revealing the exhaustion etched into every line. "Marietta," he said quietly, "my daughter is waiting for me. She needs lunch money. She needs stability. She needs a father who's present, not a man pretending to be someone's partner in a ballroom. I can't play pretend while my real life is falling apart." For the first time in her adult life, Marietta Vaughn looked speechless. Her lips parted, her eyes widened. The CEO who never lost composure felt something inside her chest collapse softly. She had come prepared for negotiation, for rejection, for skepticism, but not for truth this raw, not for a man who chose his daughter over the chance to save himself. But Arven wasn't done. He continued, his voice firm but gentle. "If I walk into that room with you, it won't be because you're the CEO, and it won't be because you need a shield. It will be because two people, both barely standing, need one moment of dignity. I'll help you, but only if afterward you help me too. Not with money, not with pity. I just need a real job. Something honest, something steady. That's my condition." Marietta's eyes glistened under the warm morning sun pouring through the glass. She wasn't used to people making demands outside of business. She wasn't used to being spoken to with honesty instead of motive. And she certainly wasn't used to someone seeing past her corporate armor into the lonely woman beneath. Her breath trembled. Then, "Yes," she whispered. "Help me tonight, and I'll help you tomorrow." The day moved slowly after that, yet somehow everything felt lighter. Arven picked up. Nelise from school in the bright afternoon light, pretending nothing was wrong. She skipped beside him, her laughter echoing down the sidewalk. He held her hand tightly, realizing that whatever happened tonight, he had one shot, one chance, to change everything for both of them. Marietta's day was no easier. The sunlight streaming through her office windows only made her anxiety sharper. The board members hovered around her like vultures, watching for a misstep. She rehearsed her speeches. She corrected her posture. She pretended not to think of Arven's reply, his fierce devotion to his daughter, his dignity, his condition. It shook her more than any merger ever had. Evening arrived, though the sky still held the brightness of late daylight. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers reflecting soft daylight hues, casting glowing patterns across the polished marble. Guests dressed in tailored suits and pastel gowns moved with forced smiles, the kind that hid secrets. Arven walked inside wearing the suit Marietta had arranged for him, simple, dark, perfectly fitted. He didn't look like a struggling single father tonight. He looked like strength that life hadn't managed to break. Marietta stood waiting for him near the entrance, and for a brief moment, as the last of the daylight streamed through the tall glass walls, even she forgot to breathe. He offered no grand gesture, no practiced charm, just quiet presence, steady, calm, enough to silence an entire room. Whispers followed them as they walked. Questions, doubts, curiosity coated in jealousy, but Marietta's hand gently brushed against his arm, steadying her heartbeat. For the first time since her father's passing, she felt safe. Throughout the event, Arven spoke when needed, listened when wise, and protected Marietta from subtle attacks disguised as polite conversation.